Thank you and welcome back to Through the Door, the insider's perspective on running a business. I'm Megan Comfort, Small Business Manager at Nevada State Bank, and I am extremely excited to talk to my next guest. This is a podcast, back up a little bit, this is a podcast where we interview business owners and we get their experiences and kind of their take on running a business in Nevada. And some of the lessons learned along the way. We are going to be talking to Lisa Imbesi. Hi. She is the owner and operator of Posh Palace. It is a full care dog facility. She's been around since 2015 and is continuing to grow her brand and her presence here in Southern Nevada. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. So we normally start these off by just hearing a little bit about your origin story and how you decided to make that plunge into entrepreneurship.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the concept of Posh Palace started because I was always traveling. I loved my dogs. They were my little babies before I had an actual baby. And I just felt every time I went away that my dog was getting sick. He was depressed. He or she was, I just felt really bad and guilty when I was leaving. So I wanted to make something that was more of a vacation for them as well, not just, drop them off, put them in a cage, they come back, you don't know whether they've ate or had a good time or any of that. So my original concept was to have this big facility, and I wanted to do a doggy beach club, like comparing,
that's fun, like Vegas
Vegas
you
style.
You go on vacation.
Right.
That's fun.
But I was having a hard time finding somebody to lease to me. So that's where I started small in my house.
Why was that? They just couldn't get on board with the idea or the concept?
That, and then it was, I was much younger. I don't know if it could be possibly that I was a woman. It was a new business. So I did find it a little challenging to get a building leased to me. And so I started small out of my house and then eventually outgrew it. And then I found this one location, and the landlord, he didn't want to lease it to me as well. But we had a kind of a idea to pay him 6 months in advance for the rent. And that's kind of what got him to do it.
Oh, okay. So I find that interesting because a lot of business owners, or when starting out, you generally don't think of that as being like a pitfall or a challenge that you go through, right? And then you realize, wow, I'm actually having to sell and convince people on the idea.
Exactly.
And see if I can't get them on board.
Right.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to figure that out. Coming out 6 months of prepaid rent is not an easy thing to do.
Right.
So it's good that it kind of gave you the chance. And was your first location where you are?
That is this is the first location, yes.
Yeah. So then tell me about how that's kind of grown.
Well, so that was definitely a learning experience. Building things for the dogs was challenging because you don't think that they will destroy everything, but they do. So now we're on our second, and we're doing all the indestructible material, and I call it almost like $100,000 lesson. Like you learn what works, what doesn't. But that's part of being a small business owner is figuring out what works and what doesn't. And
what was it? Did you make more of the things like yourself and it wasn't as durable, or did you just buy things that you thought would last and it was really more for like maybe at home, like one dog, not?
Exactly. Yeah. I think that my perspective was I had small, medium-sized dogs that wouldn't do damage to certain things, and then we had these big dogs come in and they just tear up everything, and other dogs have separation anxiety and they can jump the room. So it was really me just wanting to make everything homey and cozy instead of using the right quality things at first.
Yeah. Okay. That's, those are the things that you wouldn't necessarily know until you have to buy them again.
Right.
Or you have to figure out what to buy.
Right.
So, well, let's back up like a little bit, only because when you started this business, it sounded like it was an idea, but was this something that you knew you always wanted to get into? Like, it kind of came out of just seeing your own family members, like your furry family members, right? Coming with stress, and you're like, man, did they have a good time, or I'm having to leave? I know I had a dog and we had to leave a lot. And every time I came back, I could tell they were like, yeah, you're home and I can sleep. And it seemed like they slept quite a bit when they were home. And you got photos every now and then from like the place that I used, but you never really knew if they had fun. Is that like, did something happen with a former career where you're like, you know what, I want to just go into business for myself? Like, how did that process happen?
I think it was a little bit of a combination of who I wanted to be and also not wanting to work for somebody, wanting to, I like being in charge of certain things and my days off, even though I don't get any days off, I don't know. I just really wanted to work for myself. But then I definitely saw that there was nothing in Vegas. I went and I researched everywhere. And I thought that they were like jails for dogs. It was not, cozy. And then I tried the boarding at somebody's house. And then half the time she was gone when I would try to come pick them up. And so there just wasn't really what I wanted, and I loved to travel. So, I wanted to be able to do that and not feel bad and come back and have like a $500 vet bill every time because I don't know why my dog's sick or, and also I'm very clean. So I wanted things to be a certain, quality and like cleanliness and where I boarded my dogs.
Yeah.
So
then, okay, first location.
Yeah.
One other thing that I've noticed about your company is you have a great presence on social media. So that's kind of problem one, right? First problem is you've identified there's a need for what you're looking for. There are other people that are like you that have these family members that they're going to be boarding and they want them taken care of. They want them in a nice facility.
Right.
They want to know that this is just as much as of a vacation for them as it is for you. And so that's kind of problem set number one. Then the second is just getting people in the door and like customers actually coming in consistently. Was that part of like social media? Was that part of your strategy? Is it part of your strategy?
Yeah, I truly believe that's how my business started. I think that it was even when I was small and I had dogs staying at my house, my thing was that I would tag every single person. This is just when stories were starting, not TikTok or any of those other things. So I would just tag people and they loved it. And then it actually almost became a full-time job because people are like, oh, I didn't see my dog on the story. Is everything okay? You're like, no, everything's fine. We're just busy making sure everybody's got.
You're like, I want to reshare.
Right.
I want to reshare the photo.
So it's become kind of customary for our customers to expect it. And my idea was to be a little bit more sassy. I wanted to be trendy. I wanted to, just make people laugh instead of just like the same old like dog pics. I just wanted to be sassy. So it was just like a different vibe, and that's what I tell my staff. I say, be as sassy as you want. Push the borders, push the limits. To a certain degree.
Yeah.
And they love it. They enjoy it. But that's definitely how I built it originally.
See, I love that uniqueness of the business and taking something like social media and really just ingraining it in your company. So for those things, I know that we talked about social media. Do you use like a separate third-party firm to kind of help you manage it? Or do you go through like training protocols with your team? It's really hard to keep those things consistent.
Right.
And you don't necessarily want to destroy the autonomy or flexibility that you give people. Like that's one thing I've noticed with some companies. They're like, I have to approve every post. And I'm like, wow, that could be a full-time job. Like, how do you get anything else done?
It is, and it took quite a bit of time to get that down, but it came with training and also hiring the right people. Nowadays, I feel like people spend the majority of their free time on their phones scrolling and making videos, and it's kind of fun to do it with dogs because who doesn't like to see cute dogs or funny videos? And things like that. So that was just about training my staff, like what looks good, what doesn't look good. We've definitely had some where I'm like, delete, like panic ones. But nowadays it's just kind of like cut and paste, and we show the brand, we show them the page, the website, and we hire the right people, I think, and train them the right way.
Tell me about the hiring process. That is something that is a challenge for most business owners. Hiring and finding the right culture fit and the people that are not there just because it's a job,
Right.
and are not there just because it's their breathing person they show up.
Right.
I've heard that quite a bit from business owners sometimes. They're like, well, nowadays it's just, are they going to show up and
Right.
just come
Absolutely.
to work? But really finding people that are passionate about what you do. Is there anything unique or special that you've kind of learned along the way to hire the right folks?
Oh, definitely. I have a phenomenal management team. I have an HR person, and I have my general manager, who now is my director, and they learned a few tricks about how to actually reach out to people in the industry, and whether they're looking or not. If their resumes are on Indeed or just anywhere. It's more about people who might not be looking, but they might have a great resume, and just reaching out and saying, hey, this opportunity is available. Would you be interested? And most of the time they say yes. Or another thing that's also worked for us is when people come in to apply, those are usually the people that like love your business, that they want to work for, they see that they're passionate
They know
about
your
it.
brand. They're like, oh my
Right.
God, I want to work here.
Right.
Yeah.
So somebody who we will give opportunity to people who don't have experience with dogs, just because everybody needs to start somewhere. But that's definitely like we'll take the younger ones that are walking in who might be their first job, and we can train them the way we want them to. And then we'll also check references for sure, all the past employers, and making sure that they have longevity there. References are important for us.
That's something that I think a lot of businesses just ask for, or it's just naturally on a resume, but then you don't tend to really check.
Right.
Bigger companies, yes, but smaller companies, they either don't have the time or they don't do that, or just, I always tell business owners, just Google. Like if you just Google a person or just look up some of their accounts, assuming they're not private, and just having an understanding of what type of individual, like what's their personality when they're not at work. Those things can go a long way and kind of
Right.
help you find, good people.
Right. Also, looking at their social media, like they can give away a lot. They don't realize that employers will look, but we do check and see. And if we see certain things that we don't really want to be representing us, we've had some people who also did OnlyFans applying to us, and we're like, absolutely.
Yeah, you're
not.
like, that wouldn't be a good fit. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It is interesting. Social media has really kind of taken a different approach to. It's made so many things like more dimensional, multi-dimensional. I guess there's always been these different dimensions and roles that individuals have had, but now with social media, there's so many different things, and there's so many different things that you could join, right? That really just make it unique to where you can really understand a person through just looking through things. I actually feel bad for people that are like high school reunions and things like that, because I'm like, I don't need to go to high school reunion. I already know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I already know what you've been up to, because we
Right.
follow each other on Facebook, so I don't need to
Right.
go anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, so then tell me more about where you are with the growth. So you finally get into your location. You are recognizing that you've found this vein in really kind of cultivating the right branding and messaging that you're looking for. A lot of it having to do with social media, which most people are on. And that also kind of does two things. It improves your brand message, but then also it gives your customers something to look forward to when they're on vacation and things, or they see
Right.
that their dog is tagged in something, and
Right.
they can kind of check up on their dog. But and then hiring the right folks. But what about you as a business owner? You kind of started out of your home, then moved to a new facility, and now you're on this path of growth. Can you talk a little bit about that and how your role has changed?
So Yeah, it took a little bit for me to stop trying to do everything. And that's kind of where that's challenging as an entrepreneur, to actually like give the reins to other people, because you want things done a certain way, but you're never going to grow unless you do trust people. And the minute I started doing that was when I was able to, look into other locations and, trust that there might be some bumps along the way that might not go extremely the way I want them to, or exactly the way I want them to. But now I don't even think twice about my first location, because it's kind of like on autopilot. I've got a great team, and I also noticed that people don't like to be micromanaged. That's when they're doing things wrong, I'll kind of jump on and micromanage them for a little bit, and then I back off, and then they're like, okay, like I don't like that, so I'll just do my job the way it is. But yeah, like letting other people do what they're hired to do and not micromanaging them. And then, focusing on what I'm good at, which would be, being an innovator and coming up with crazy ideas that you'd never think to do in dog hotels and in the dog industry. And focusing on that that's been a challenge, but I'm getting better at it.
Yeah. Hey, it evolves. You're
Right.
more of the visionary front. So you mentioned your management team and how you kind of rely on those individuals. Did they grow into that role with your company? So they had
Yes.
been working for you for a while and you just saw
Yeah.
the potential?
I really feel like if you have somebody good, you can teach them, and you can teach them the way you want it done. It's definitely a challenge. It took quite a few years to get some of my staff to where they are, but now like they don't even ask me questions where I'm like, hey, like what's going on? They're like, well, I got this, don't worry. Like, so it's nice to have that, but you just have to teach them and trust that what you're teaching them, they might be doing better than you would do. Like some of the handling customers, I might have a little less patience nowadays, with a toddler running around where other people, that's their job.
Yeah.
So,
That's funny. That reminds me so much of my husband's companies and the folks that we have running those businesses, because they do it a lot better. Now I find myself always apologizing before I ask a question. I'm like, you probably emailed me, or I probably have something, but I'm just going to ask it.
Right.
Because they do really run those companies and they know how to do it better than
Right.
I do. It's interesting when you give people the room to
Yeah.
innovate and kind of create their own process, what they come up with. I'm always surprised by that, which is silly, because you would think that if you could do it, then there would be other people that would be able to do something like that. And, oftentimes when you're in the minutia, it's just so easy to just be able to be like, nope, you know what? I'm just going to take care of that. Never mind. Like, you
Absolutely.
don't, or let me tell you how I need to do it.
Right.
Did you have like a mentor or someone that kind of taught you along the way to like the trust factor? Like, hey, you have to trust. Like, what happened in your business where you're like, you know what? I have to stop doing everything. Or did an employee tell you? I always love those stories. I have that. We have a girl, Kennedy. She's like, Megan, I'm going to tell you that you need to stop
Right.
messaging me. Like, I will, and I'll
got
get back
this.
to you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, I guess
Right.
I'll just stop then.
I've had some of my previous bosses that are now my customers, which has been pretty exciting. I worked for MGM International for a while, Hakkasan Group, and then Light Group. And then I worked for somebody who, he was my former boss, but everybody was scared of him. And he came into Posh Palace, and I was like, what are you doing here? Like, am I in trouble? Like, I kind of like, he's like, I'm picking my dogs up. And I was like, oh, like, well, what do you think? And he like kind of did his little walkthrough, like what he
Yeah.
did. And he's like, you have a phenomenal business. He said, you need to put up 4 more in Las Vegas, and you need to do it now, otherwise somebody else is going to do it. When he said that to me, I was like, well, how do I do that? How do I be in 4 places at once? And he said, do you have somebody that you trust that can really run one location, and do you have other people you could teach? And I said, yeah, I do. And he's like, well, then you give them a little piece of the pie, or you pay them higher, and that's how you do it. He's like, because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So it really, like, it stuck with me, and that's that's what we're on right now.
Yeah. I mean, I have goosebumps. That is a very sobering fact that you're like,
Right.
wow, if I don't do it, someone else will.
Absolutely.
And you realize that your concept and the care that you have for your clients and the pets that they drop in, you want it to be you. You don't want someone else coming in, maybe not having that same approach or
Right.
care.
Right.
I think about that a lot in my world, even in banking, is I want to be able to help every single person, and I want to make myself available to every single individual that needs something, but I can't because
Right.
I'm only one person. So how do you replicate that with so many other people so that they, do the same
Right.
thing and feel the same way?
Right. Totally.
So what is the next step for Posh Palace? Now that the first location's autopilot running itself, and then now you have your mentor telling you, hey, if you don't open up more, someone else is going to do it.
Right. So we're on to location number 2, and it's absolutely unbelievable, this project, because it's more than I could have imagined. What we kind of did, like the ideas we have. It's opening up probably within 2 weeks. We're doing like a soft opening just for like our friends and family and our current customers, because you know how it is when you open small businesses. There's little kinks you got to work out.
Yep.
But the way that I designed this one was more of, we have an indoor pool with a waterfall. We've got like a clear playground that the dogs can climb on, and you can see them playing. It's very very high end, but there's also little things that like we put in there that you wouldn't think of. Like the water in Vegas is, it dries out the dog's skin. They get allergies, so we have like a UV filter in there for the pool, so their skin they're not going to get all itchy and have more allergies from the chlorine. So yeah, we've got that up and going. We've got all luxury suites, and then I've also got another concept that I am really excited about. I really haven't got to talk too much about it because it's really the first of its kind in the United States. It's my business partner, who is the owner of Cactus Pet Hospital.
Okay.
He is studying more of like skincare for dogs, and everybody has patches and dry skin and allergies. So we're innovating laser technology from Korea, where instead of giving dogs, allergy medicine and, instead of just giving them Band-Aids for the issues that they have, we're actually going to try to correct the problems. So with like allergy testing, giving them actually what they're allergic to, and then using these lasers to not use medication to get them off antibiotics and things like that. There's a lot to explain. It's another podcast.
Not just, you're not only just focused on the fun part.
Right.
You're actually focused on certain things that affect and the quality of life for a dog and the owners if they can't seem to figure out the solution to it.
Right.
That's really amazing. You're venturing into a complementary industry is what I would call it, where it's like you have your industry that you're in right now, and then you're utilizing that knowledge and kind of the information that you have here over to something else that's really going to help do more good for animals.
I think with Posh is also that I wouldn't sell or do anything that I wouldn't give to my own dogs. So I really do the research on like the products and the food that we're selling. And I also like to work with other small businesses. I have Dog and Whistle. They make all our meals. So it's like a room service thing for the dogs, and he's local. So they're just like little things that we do that are more of like I don't know what the word of it is, like a sincere touch or.
I feel like it's more like the Four Seasons than anything else. It's interesting because you are bringing all the things that we get to do as humans, right, into a world where it's probably common for their owners to do that when they're at home, but not necessarily when they drop them off somewhere.
Right.
So you're just being an extension of the lifestyle that they're already accustomed to and have, which is really neat. Well, probably even a notch up. They're like, the dogs are probably like, let me go back. Like, why are you picking me up? Like, I don't want to. I don't want to go back.
The itchy dogs and all that stuff. So yeah, we're gonna have all these really. It's not going to be like a veterinary center where you have shots and vaccines and surgeries. It's really just a wellness spa. So they're going to come in feeling better than they did when they left. So,
Overall wellness and continued prevention.
right,
probably.
right. And then getting them off, antibiotics and things, antibiotics, Apoquel, steroids that is going to cause, liver failure when they're older and worse things, and actually correcting the problems instead of just.
Yeah, the consequences of, fixing one ailment is generally it leads to others.
Yeah.
So if you can approach it in a very healthy way, that's nice. And I don't think that doesn't exist. I can't think of it existing in Southern Nevada, at least. I'm sure I'm not as in tune with the industry. So maybe there are other people that are kind of trying to figure it out. But overall, I think this is a great place for that.
Right. The laser concept is something newer to dogs, and my vet actually went to Korea to go study, and they're coming next week to train us on how to do everything. But they said that they really don't have anybody in the United States that's doing this, and they really want us to be the innovator of that. So I'm excited, and I think that I definitely have that capability of introducing things to the animal industry and solving problems long term rather than just short term.
Did you always have an eye for like the future things? You talked about some of the ideas and things. That's part of being a business owner, is having those ideas and that vision and that path.
Right.
Is this something that you already laid out like strategically in a plan? You're like when you were in 2015, like I'm going to do this and then accomplish X, Y, and Z? Or is this something that you just kind of identified the opportunity as it came up? Like, how did these things fall on your lap, or like that you come across them and figure out where to take your business next?
Well, I guess it was 2013, I owned a med spa, and I sold that. So I've always had that like wellness industry, and pets have always been my, like they melt my heart. I love animals. I think they're better than people. To some degree.
Yeah.
But I think that I was giving a service, and I realized that, I was providing people what they actually really needed. And so many of my customers are like, thank you for creating Posh and doing these things. And then it's also come from me as a pet owner, what I've experienced. And that's dealing with dogs with allergies and how much money I've spent, and still not knowing what they're allergic to or figuring out or fixing it, and really trying. I tried this treatment over at Cactus Pet Hospital, which is what we're moving over here, and it was a bath soak, and I noticed it worked incredibly, and I was like, we need to introduce this, so that's where we're at with that. And anybody who's tried the treatments so far are just blown away by it. So
yeah, I love that you focused on all the things that you do. You're kind of doing yourself. You're not entering into an industry that you know nothing about,
Right.
or not an animal owner yourself or
Right.
a pet owner yourself. Like you actually are going through your own experiences and using that as ammunition to fuel kind of the trajectory of where you're taking the company and the business. So are you looking at continuing to expand?
Oh, absolutely.
So, well, tell me about the second location, because I know it's not open yet, but going from 1 to 2 is really hard. I feel like after you have done that, it seems like business owners are more like, okay, I've unlocked the recipe of creating more locations. But it
Right.
really is that 1 to 2. Going from 2 to 4 to 6, it doesn't seem as difficult.
Right.
What are some of the things that you've learned going from 1 to 2 locations?
You can't.
I'm sure you're
Time
still learning.
Yeah, I'm definitely still
Yeah.
learning. It's time management. It's that nothing is ever really done when it's supposed to be done, and trying to always keep my cool, even when I'm like extremely stressed out. You just are overwhelmed. There's so much to do and so little time to get it done. It's just kind of trying to manage and having a healthy way to manage that stress and stay organized, and also delegating, trusting my staff to get things done.
How do you do that? How have you figured out time management and organization for yourself? I know that that's, to be honest with you, probably one of the number one things that I see in business owners is those two things are they get more challenging over time, and the bigger your company gets even harder.
Learning how to say no has been one. It's still a hard thing for me to do because you get invited to all these different things and you want to go and you don't want to let people down. But absolutely, like putting your time first instead of other people's time, and then getting up a little bit earlier, staying up a little bit later. Just skipping nights out on the weekends. Like there's been so many Friday nights, and that's usually what I do. Is that I work, I'm painting or I'm putting things together, just sacrificing. And that's definitely what it takes. It's not, you can't just clock out on the weekends,
I know you graduated into probably never really being able to leave town that much and going into just working on something that you love though, which is nice. That right. I ended up getting my husband a lot of nice folders and things like that I thought he would utilize because he's a writer. He isn't a technology person. So I was like, oh, there's this shared doc. We have all of the to-dos. Go in there every day. It's live. You could change it. Other people will see it. That's really nice for you to use. The checklist manifesto is something that I think I've heard other business owners talk about. I've listened to as well. It's really unique. Something satisfying about crossing something off your list is really nice.
I agree.
And having getting it out of your brain and onto something and constantly moving that around and prioritizing. It seems like that's something that I think has really helped a lot of people with when they have a lot of things going on.
Yes,
and the time management thing is definitely difficult.
Right.
So outside of, saying no to going out and doing things like that, is there anything that you do from an organizational perspective that kind of helps you with managing your, responsibilities and your priorities on getting things to a deadline? Because as you talked about, everyone else's deadlines typically get a little longer. It's yours that starts to get truncated.
Right.
Because you got to make up for that lost time.
I think definitely prioritizing, like you had said, what has to be done, what's in a time crunch, and making sure that your team is doing exactly what they need to get done, whether it's marketing or partners or the build out. You just have to kind of stay on top of everything, and not. I've noticed whenever I kind of let anything go, it definitely
evolves into something. You're like, how did that happen?
Right. So you got to always make sure you stay on things. My original director of operations was she was a former Marine, and she worked in like the fire department area, and her and her husband, they were Marines. They live in Texas now, but everything with them was military-based management. So everything was like, can you figure this out on your own before you go and ask me this question? What are your solutions? And then don't come to your boss until you have those things that you have to present to them. So it's all about like chain of command and having the idea and solutions before you just go and ask questions. So that's definitely helped like with our operations, and it makes your staff kind of feel a little bit more important, I guess.
Yeah, and empowered. I completely agree with that mindset of having people really think through a problem set, and if it were theirs, how would they approach something or what would they do? Even if it's, okay, I don't know what to do.
Right.
I don't know what to do, but it's at least you have put some effort into figuring it out.
Yeah.
And saying, and you can articulate, this is at least what I've tried to do to figure it out, and I still can't come up with a solution.
Right.
I feel like it improves job fulfillment. People feel really good, especially when they are able to figure things out. That's one thing that I find really interesting about the younger generations. I don't see them so much problem solving a whole lot. Everything that we've kind of developed has been so system and process oriented. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and go down the line. But what if step 4 happens before step 2? And what if you have to go out of sequence because something happens? Or what if, you can't necessarily follow the same process every single time? Having the ability to really think about that and focus is on how to do it. It just makes them faster too, more efficient, figuring out ways to do things better.
Right.
So it was that director that kind of brought that concept to you and was like, hey, we gotta look at doing this for the team.
Yes. And it's kind of how we train everybody. I've trained my managers to train their staff to come up with a solution before they go and ask you. Because you'll just, you won't get anything done if everybody's just in your office asking you a million things. I'm sure you're very familiar with that.
Yeah. Tell me about the planning or the training that you do for your employees a little bit. Do you hold regular meetings just to keep everybody on the same page? Or when you think about communication, the flow of communication, how do you make sure that things remain consistent and to the brand and that you don't get anyone going off script in some negative way?
That's definitely a challenge for us, especially being 365 days a year. We have staff 24/7, so we never really close. We always have dogs. It's always
Yeah.
We use a chat. We use WhatsApp, which is simple.
Okay. Yeah.
And we just kind of stay organized in that. And we have shift notes. So in the morning times, the overnight attendant will give the AM shift a rundown, and then the AM shift will meet with the PM shift at 2:00 and, switch. And then, so we're just keeping everybody in the chain of commands, and they have to read what's going on, what is being relayed down the line to them before they could start. So they're aware if there's a dog that's sick or anything like that, or we have an upset customer or a happy customer, or, just.
Yeah. Who deals with the customer complaints when you have them? Is it just you, or do you have
I actually
other
don't.
people? Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I try not to, because my personality is, as you know, I'm a New Yorker, so sometimes we're just straight to the point, and or I have people that are just more patient and sweeter, and that's their specialty, and you just couldn't yell at them. So I have my few managers that are very well trained on how to deal with that, and we want to understand what the problem is, and not just argue with them. There's something that's bothering them, and maybe they don't understand our end of it. So we just always try to work through whatever we can, a resolution to make everybody happy.
Yeah. I feel that during conflict, that's when you really solidify great relationships. It's really how you handle it. It's not necessarily giving the other person all the things that they want,
Right.
but taking a genuine approach to caring about the issue that they have and trying to come up with a solution that's fair
Right.
for everybody.
How would you feel if you were in their shoes, and vice versa?
Yeah. The conflict discussion is always interesting because it's not often that you actually have employees or find people that are able to do that. So it's really great that you have that, because normally it's something that kind of bubbles up to you, and then hopefully you don't have very many, and so you're the one kind of feeling all that.
We've been lucky lately. Last year was scary with the dog flu that was going on. You got to explain to everybody, but we were fortunate because we have really good protocols, and the minute anybody sees anything, so we've got that locked down, which is great.
Well, and you talked about the cleanliness factor too, which of your facilities, which I could tell is definitely something that's top of mind for you guys, because it doesn't smell like a dog place at all.
Right.
You can go in and it's interesting. It doesn't. I'm always amazed by that. But I did read on your website that you use air filtration quality,
Hospital grade. Yeah, we have great ventilation, which costs quite a bit of money, but it definitely helps with keeping everything sanitized and clean. And even with our new spot, we have, the pool, which is going to get a wet dog smell. So we've got all that in there, and using a good contractor that kind of knows what works and what doesn't is always a plus.
Yeah. You're using a contractor for your second location. That's someone that helped you on your first?
No, the first, we basically just did the shell. So I I didn't do it the right way because I didn't own the building. I didn't have any TIs or anything like that. So we built out, but this time around, I had somebody do it the right way because I've made the wrong mistakes, and it's actually cost me more money and time in the long run. When if I would have actually used the right stuff and done it the right way with, somebody who is probably not the cheapest. That's also one thing. Is like you get what you pay for. Like with anything, I think that you could go the thumbtack route and do everything your own way, or you could actually have somebody who knows what they're doing, and it saves you a lot of time and energy.
Yeah. So tell us about the second location, because that is a little bit more unique in the sense that when you did venture out and grow, you knew that anything that you were getting, you wanted to own. And so you're obviously building that one out to really be the experience that you want for your clients.
Yeah, it's different when it's yours too, because it's like, it's yours. It's not somebody else's building that you're building out and putting all this money into. I just wanted it to be all of the bells and whistles, and I wanted it to really look like a posh palace. And also, it doesn't hurt that my on the med spa side that my vet, he has like impeccable taste. He loves everything restoration hardware, and so when we used his contractor who built out his veterinary center, and he did everything like the proper way, like he knows all of the rules that I didn't even know of.
Yeah. And so he found that person, because that is another thing that's difficult when you're vetting third parties and people to work with, is who really has the expertise and the experience that's going to line up. Did you take a lot of time interviewing different people for that new location and making sure that you were working with them?
I did. I think I interviewed about like 6 different companies. And the reason I liked the one I'm using now is because he's always so, he's just honest and straightforward. I know of quite a few other businesses that have used him, and if there's something that happens at the other vet center, he fixes it. He's on it. So it's always good to have somebody that has credibility, especially in that industry.
Well, and what I like is you're focusing on the experience of really something that Jonathan Jossel said in our episode that we aired, the second episode, where he said when people come into his place, like, what is the first thing they see? What is the first smell that they have? Those things, and just making sure right off the bat when people come in, they understand the difference between Posh Palace and anyone else. That's really hard to nail.
Right.
How did you learn that would be important? Is that something naturally that you just figured out, or?
I took a visual merchandising course in college, and a lot of the way that they explain things, it stuck with me, I guess. I also love interior design. I love anything design. I like to do the marketing stuff. So that's kind of more my specialty, is marketing and interior design things. I think that I have an eye for that.
Yeah.
Which is not everybody does, and you can definitely tell with certain places. But if you don't, I would suggest having somebody who does do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specializing, right? Like everyone has their own specialty. So being able to just be honest with yourself on like, this isn't my specialty. I need to, and it's going to make a difference in the way my business performs. So I'm going to need to find someone that can do it.
Right. Absolutely.
What about just future growth? Because you mentioned, the trajectory, and I love what you're doing with the second location. It's kind of Posh Palace, initial of your first location out of your house. Then you graduated up into finding a lease location. Now you are going to be in your own building that is really, all the specifications and everything is to the standard of what you believed Posh Palace would be. And then also the wellness factor that you have going on. All of these things kind of require you to strategically plan and cash flow manage, right, for the growth.
Right.
How is that something as a business owner that you kind of do? Like, what's your thought process around that?
Well, it was a little scary, just taking this extra leap. But like, I know that I have a demand there. So there's a lot of people that are like, we cannot wait until this opens up, and running my numbers, making sure that if anything were to happen, that I could actually carry the second if we weren't good for the first year on the first location. So definitely looking what wiggle room I had. It's also working for free for a little bit.
Yeah. But you focus on the financial aspect of your business, not just like you mentioned, design and marketing. That's something that you are really interested in. That's really where your passion lies. But you don't ignore the financial piece of it.
No.
That's extremely important. So where did you learn or understand that? Is that something that you learned through prior work experience or coming into it? Because it sounds like everything you've done, you really have done knowing I need to be conservative with my capital and the way that I kind of approach these things, because you don't want to fail, right? You don't want to be in a position where you're going to be reliant on someone else telling you yes or no, and that's going to be the decision for your business.
Right. I looked at things with I have a really great CPA and bookkeeper. She manages me every month, and she's like, you gotta do this. What's going on. So I have somebody who really helps me with that end, kind of like knowing where I'm at with my P&Ls and the growth of things. If we're turning away business, then it's probably time to open up another location.
Yeah.
It definitely, I know that it's not something that's going to be profitable right away. So I'm also prepared for that. And that's just with any business. A lot of people aren't, and they panic and they freak out, but you have to prepare for it. So it also comes with, working with Nevada State Bank, who has helped me tremendously with, the build out and planning and, getting those right loans that, you have that cushion to kind of.
Even that didn't go according to plan, like we had hoped. But,
well, it's all done.
It happens. And it really is about how you come to the table and kind of resolve and work through things. But
right.
That I like that you have that conservative approach. I think that is one of the things that makes your business so unique and really onto something that I think is going to be really fantastic, because you are such a great operator. You're really thinking not just about all the amazing ideas and the marketing and really that stuff that kind of is the virality, right? Is that a word? The virality of things and the things that you do that is going to get your name out there. But you're thinking about conservatively, how do I budget, manage things realistically? When am I going to get into the black? How do I conserve that cash? How do I make sure to make my next move? And what does that look like?
Right.
And what's my return on investment? Simple calculations like that you have to think about as a business.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. And, just you have to have a little bit of a cushion to, I mean, it's always easier said than done, but it's like when you do get low, you're like, oh my gosh, but it all, I think anything that you kind of put you work really hard at and plan and put all your energy into, it's obviously you can fail, but I've done this in the past. So if I'm going to put all my focus on this, I have a really good feeling about it. And I know there's a need for it too.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the next locations and this new upcoming location. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. I haven't been by it yet, so I can't wait to see it open. I have no more pets, but I'll still come by and hang out with all the dogs that might be there.
Right. Now get your pet therapy and
yeah, exactly. I'll bring my kids. They'll really go crazy in there.
Absolutely.
You'll be like, I don't do people. Okay, Megan, leave. You can't leave your children here.
Right.
But thank you so much for being on Through the Door, the insider's perspective on running a business.